Hi Year 10, Mr. Tapler here for your next lesson of Year 10 History. This lesson, we are looking at reviewing and revising the key events, individuals, and topics covered in our World War II history curriculum. Success criteria is to identify those key topics, use all the available support resources to study, so the textbook, your notebook, the videos that we've been putting into the slides, the class slides themselves are all support resources. And then you'll be using all that information to create a summary sheet, cheat sheet, info sheet, whatever you want to call it, of information that you will be allowed to use during the World War II Dev on Friday. So I'll explain that more in this video. So as I said, this lesson, we're looking at reviewing and revising our World War II content. So that's the full double period today on Thursday. To guide your efforts, you'll be provided with a checklist of key topics and events that will be assessed in the World War II Dev, and it's a source analysis, which is a skill we've been working on kind of throughout the term. We had the Kokoda source analysis activity. We've done something on the Holocaust, and the Dev will be on Friday. So this Friday, week 6, 21st of August. So the revision checklist, what do I need to know? What do I need to put onto my summary sheet to study to prepare for the Dev? The Holocaust and Hiroshima and Nagasaki, so the end of Pacific War and Japan, and then the Holocaust are two key topics that we're looking at for the Dev task. A bit more detail about those topics. For the Holocaust, you're looking at the causes, so anti-Semitism. After losing World War I, Germany, some Germans blamed the Jewish people for that loss, and that was started really by Hitler and the Nazi regime, so you'd look at that. Key events, such as the Nuremberg laws brought in by Chancellor Hitler, which basically stripped all Jewish people of their citizenship, of their rights and freedoms. Of course, the concentration camps, the final solution, so turning those concentration camps from labor camps to death camps. The impact, so looking at casualties, post-World War II immigration, which connects nicely to our next unit, but that's later on. The Nuremberg trials. After the war, we punished the World War II Nazi war criminals. And then the legacy of the Holocaust. So looking at the impact today, the modern present impact, whatever you want to call it, by creating the United Nations. It kind of led to that. And the the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR. There's too many acronyms. So that's the Holocaust, the key topics you're looking at there. And for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the atomic bombing, you're looking at the causes. So we had that plan for a full-scale invasion, Operation Downfall into Japan, but we looked at battles in Iwo Jima and Okinawa, and we said that's a lot of casualties, that's a lot of damage. Can we do something else? The key events, obviously the events of the bombing, the impact to those cities, to the people, in terms of casualties and in ending the Pacific War and World War II. And then some debate over the controversy of those events, so the moral, ethical concerns of using atomic bombs. And then the final thing I'd like you to add to your checklist is source analysis skills. So I put something into the slides on AppCams, which is a terrible acronym, I know, but it's the best I could do, which is basically a checklist within a checklist. So when you are presented with a primary source or a secondary source about World War II, you go through your little checklist to gather information, to form your responses, your answers to the questions. So who is the author of this primary source? Where was it made? So the place. What prior knowledge do I know about this topic, which is hopefully what you're going to get from this, that can help me add to my understanding of the source. Causes. Why was it made? Audience. Who is it made for? Message. What is the message? And significance. What can we learn from this? So all of those things you can talk about in source analysis questions. So that is your checklist. What are you doing with that study checklist? Well, to further structure your revision efforts and make sure you guys actually use this lesson to study, you will be creating a summary sheet of notes that you will allow to reference in your Dev. So obviously, it's not going to be an open book assignment. However, I can't really come into your houses, burst through the door, and just prevent you from using some sort of support resource in the Dev. So I'm hoping that you will use a summary sheet as opposed to just typing everything into Google or into your textbook. There is a time limit on the Dev. Obviously, you've got one lesson to complete it. So the people who are spending hours and hours rummaging through their entire textbook or searching up answers on the interwebs. One, we have kind of designed the questions in a way that you can't really just find the answer on the webs. It's more of a interpretation of what you're looking at. So you can't say, Google, what should I think about this question? It's not just going to be easy dates that you can just find off the webs. And two, Google Classroom does have a plagiarism check, a tool that allows you to check for suspicious looking content in student assessments. So hopefully that deters you from cheating. There's not much else I can do, again, besides bursting through your bedroom or living room window. But you can't use the textbook, but you can use the summary sheet of notes. So you can have that open while you're completing the dev task. And hopefully that'll help you answer these questions on the World War II source analysis. The dev follows the same structure as the CAT. So we're in week 6 currently. Week 6 Friday, you have the dev. I'll get the results back to you and some feedback in our first lesson back in week 7 on Wednesday. You guys will have Thursday to do a bit more revision, to think about the feedback, ask me questions, etc., etc. And then the CAT, which is also going to be a source analysis about World War II, will be week 7, Friday, 28th of the 8th. Same structure. So it's going to have one visual primary source, section A or part 1, whatever you want to call it. And that might be a propaganda poster, it might be a photograph or a painting. And then part 2 is going to be a text source. So that might be a speech by Hitler or a speech by some US president, something like that. It could be a diary entry of a soldier, or it could be a newspaper article. And then finally, section 3 or C, you have an extended response question. So you've got a couple of questions about a visual source, a couple about a little paragraph, and then an extended response question, which kind of brings it all together. So it talks you through the sources, but you're also expected to kind of flex your prior knowledge of World War II. So that's where this checklist will come in handy. The dev and the CAT will both be completed in Google Form. So it's going to be a Google Form assignment in Google Classroom. It'll open up, I'll schedule it to appear just before your class starts, and you'll have 40 to 50 minutes to complete the dev, and then I'll set the due date or the due time just after your class ends. If you have technical difficulties, your internet dies, or a hurricane occurs or something, I don't know, please let me know, so I know not to mark you as overdue and to give you a late penalty. So 40 to 50 minutes, one lesson to smash through the dev. Same with the CAT. It's going to be about 6 to 10 questions, 20 marks total, and it's going to have the marks allocated to each question, so you can see how many marks each question is worth. So hopefully that will guide your efforts in the CAT. So if it's a 1 mark question, I know I only need to give a little bit of information. If it's 2 marks, I'll read the question carefully. Maybe I need to define this, but also give an example, something like that. The final question of the dev, to make sure you guys are studying and to authenticate your work in some manner, the final question of the dev requires you to submit your summary sheet. So you're actually attaching your summary sheet, which will either be a 1-page Google Doc file or a PDF or a Microsoft Word thing. Basically, it's 1 page of your notes. And the final question, you can't actually submit the learning task, the dev, until you attach your summary sheet. I can't show you what the dev looks like, obviously, but this is a Google Form dev that I have for my Year 9s. So I'll show you this, and it's going to be obviously somewhat similar in terms of the structure for your dev. So you can see here, it's a little Google Form. We've got some questions, 1 mark, 1 point, and then when you get to the end, question 10, upload your info sheet or your summary sheet you created to prepare for this assessment. And then you just click on that, add file, download the Google Doc, Word document, PDF, whatever, submit, and then you're done. In terms of support resources, again, class slides have got lots of information. Chapter 2 is the useful chapter for the textbook. Specifically, you're looking for chapter 2.2. So it's pretty much pages 90 to 100. So it's about 10 pages, not a lot of information to smash into your summary sheet. And I think that's all I've got, guys. If you have any questions about the dev, about the info sheet, if you have any concerns, you think you need an extension or you need extra help, please let me know. Otherwise, best of luck on the dev task on Friday of week 6, which is the 21st of August. I'll get the feedback, the results to you before the CAT, obviously, which will be next Friday, the 28th. and you guys will have the double period next Thursday to study, to revise before the CAT. So don't stress. I know it's been a long term. I know you guys are working hard, but I think you're doing really well, just personally, and I think you'll do well on this CAT if you use that study time to make a nice little summary sheet, and if you ask me questions when you have questions. So yeah, best of luck, guys. Hope you're well. Cheers.